Hey everyone! We are continuing with our fan commentary with More Than Meets the Eye, Part 2 from the G1 Transformers cartoon. This would have been the second episode ever, and it would have aired September 18th of 1984. Over 40 years old now. I'm sitting back in my good old recliner, and I'm looking forward to this. I had so much fun doing the first episode. I think this is going to be just as much fun. So I'm going to count it down. Right now, I am at the 0:00 timestamp, ready to play the second episode. You can find it on Hasbro Pulse, or if you have a DVD, go ahead and pop that bad boy in, because I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, go. I have the intro going now, and I think this is still fine. I know I said we would skip over the intro going forward. I think it's worth keeping just for timestamps. And I think it's also fun to point out just anyone who might have missed the last episode where we have left off. You had the Autobots and Decepticons crash land on Earth. There are 18 Autobots and a total of, I think, 13 Decepticons? Maybe 12. In any case, they're here for energy. Optimus is the big good guy, Megatron is the big bad guy, and Starscream's the interesting one. We're now getting a recap from the episode. You can see all the clips, all these great times the Nemesis goes flying. You have Optimus come back online. The Decepticons woke up first, though. Soundwave gets to shoot the Energon cubes out of his chest. Megatron destroyed an oil rig. There's probably a lot of dead people. So, now we are continuing on. There's Huffer, as always, complaining, though this time he has a reason, because he's dying. But Brawn's going to come help him out. Also, I love the fact that Huffer's covered in motor oil. He's basically just bleeding all over his body when you think about it. Thankfully, Brawn is more than happy to help him out. So, these two are going to take off now. It's really weird. Going forward, the Autobots are going to lose the ability to fly. There's Trailbreaker, and you can see they were saving the other workers on the oil rig. A very popular misconception is that everyone died except for Spike and Sparkplug, but no, they did save the others. And Wheeljack flying around, setting out all the fires while Trailbreaker was using his force field ability. And now Jazz is going to use his hook, which if you have your Origins Jazz figure, that's the reason why that guy has that toy. And this is also why Jazz is the second in command. It's because, other than Optimus, he probably knows what he's doing the most. So, we're also getting the introduction of what the Autobots are to the humans. And you can see Spike is really into it. You gotta think, right? He's a child or grown adult. We're actually not sure how old Spike is. I always thought he was a kid, but no, if you're working on an oil rig, I'm going to assume you can at the very least vote. You're probably at least 18. And Sparkplug, I'll say it, I feel like he's a really underrated part of the G1 cartoon. I remember being great with Sparkplug. We are now past our first big transition, and we are hearing Spike's monologue, where he's just recapping that the Transformers are somehow living robots. And Soundwave is sneaking around in the shadows. This is the first reveal that he turns into a tape deck, and of course, because Spike is a child man, a man-child, he will just take a random tape deck, because why not? I would take a random tape deck. Why not? I have buddies who are into tapes. And then he just leaves it. It's like, I love this so much, let me leave it on a random shelf. So now Spike is doing the point-and-click adventure game of trying to get more information. And Soundwave is just prowling. Also, this is probably the most spotlight the Trail Cutter's ever going to get, at least until he saves them from the Rainmakers. This is also the first time that we get to see the medbay of the Ark. I don't think this ever comes back. But there is the implication that the Ark has multiple, sub-buildings. And you can see this is supposed to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship between Hound and Spike. A beautiful friendship that does not exist after these first 3 episodes. But it's pretty cool. We got Mirage, who's going to show up the fact that he's invisible. He's invisiblest, if you will. Weirdly enough, in the fandom, there's this idea that Hound and Mirage are best buddies. They don't interact all that much. I think it literally comes just from the fact that they were standing together. That we had this idea that those two must be good friends. But I dig it. It makes sense that Hound and Mirage would be friends. They're just kind of weirdos amongst the original Autobot cast. And now we have Soundwave out and about. They actually reused that animation of him growing big and taking that pose from the original toy commercial, in which he would have pulled the cassettes out right after that and launched them. Ravage is going to be stealing information from Teletron 1, because of course Teletron 1 still uses cassette tape technology. It is the most advanced form of technology, don't you know? That was actually really pretty, that shot of Hound driving in the desert. At least that kind of horizon shot we had. It's very bizarre, this character building we're getting, because Hound just had some great lines talking about how peaceful Cybertron was, and he has a great character concept with how much he loves Earth. He wants to be a human. I don't want to say Hound was wasted as a character, but it feels like he could have had so much more than he really did. Spike knowing how to get the alarm going. And of course Soundwave is ditching his cat. If you got in through the Skybound comics, you're about to see something really weird, which is Soundwave just ditches Ravage. He's out. I'm just saying, that was Skybound Soundwave. He would have killed every single Autobot there to try to get Ravage. Jazz and Sideswipe trying to take it out. A funny thing that's often lost is the fact that most of the G1 Autobots are not warriors. Jazz, Sunstreaker, and Sideswipe are warriors. They are actually trained soldiers, and they're the only trained soldiers amongst the Autobots. Everyone else are scientists, or they are civilians that were conscripted. And you can hear now Soundwave is playing back the recordings he got from Teletron 1, because, internet doesn't exist back then. This was the only way the Decepticons could learn. Also, I love the fact that Soundwave, or rather Megatron, was like, you know what we need to do with our limited resources? Build me a throne. I need a new throne. A green throne. So, we are actually doing a decent job at keeping it consistent with what the Decepticons have. Like, they have energy, but they still don't have access to information. And I know I said this a lot in the first episode. There is a lot of actually good attention to detail within these first few episodes, like that. Decepticons are now at this hydroelectric dam in order to get more energy. Also, look past Megatron and Thundercracker. There was a Gray Seeker. That was our first generic Seeker. So, this is second appearance of Rumble. Third appearance, because he was choking Sparkplug in that last episode. And I think this is the first appearance. No, it's not even the first appearance of the Pile Drivers. This is all stuff we've already established. It's cool. I'm looking, there's no generic Seeker here anymore. I'm sure there's going to be a lot that will pop up later. We just had another transition, and now we're going to see the Decepticons going to overcharge the hydroelectric dam. What Rumble is doing is he is essentially making a tidal wave within the river to supercharge that dam and get as much energy going into it as quickly as they can. So, I don't know if you noticed that wasn't exactly gibberish that was on the screen. Some of it was, but there were actually a few mathematical symbols within the screen. And I would like to think they did that because supposedly math is the universal language. That's why we actually put mathematic equations on a lot of the shuttles we shoot into space in the hopes that if an alien finds it, they can translate our math. I think I'm reading way too much into it. I think they did that because the mathematical symbols are weird looking, and they kind of look like they could be just a gibberish language. First, a name drop of the Null Ray. You gotta love the Null Ray. Null Ray might be my favorite weapon in all the Transformers. It's right up there with the Glass Gas and the Fusion Cannon. First commercial break, and I want to get a timestamp for this. So guys, we are now at 8:23, coming back from the first ad break. That's going to be, if you're watching the episode on YouTube, 8:23 is when we are now back with the hydroelectric dam. I wanted to add just the times of those ad breaks just so people can always make sure that they're synced up. I know that was an issue we had with the first recording. Megatron's face is always so hit and miss in this first miniseries. Megatron might be the single character they drew off-model the most during these first 3 episodes. And then we got Reflector coming and grabbing the Energon Cubes. Is this going to be first appearance of pink Energon Cubes? No, we don't really know yet. And I do like the addition that also Megatron wants to do this quickly because he knows the Autobots do outnumber them. So, yep. And then we have them being absolutely certain the Decepticons did this. Prowl was asking, are we sure this happened? They're flying again because they can fly sometimes. I know a lot of people, also, I don't know if you noticed, Hound just deployed like a little face mask to go underwater, implying that he needs air. The other thing is, they never really explain why the Autobots lose the ability to fly. I don't like that they can fly. I always prefer that being a Decepticon exclusive power. And now we're going to have a first big spotlight for Ironhide. Bumblebee is going to hop inside. Also, that gun, that's actually on the G1 Ironhide toy. Because if you've ever seen the G1 Ironhide toy, basically half the van just turns into a gun rack. And also, I think this is actually a pretty clever, cartoony way to get rid of a tsunami, is making essentially a bunch of tiny rivers for the water to fall into. It wouldn't work in real life, but it works for a cartoon. And also, you know, Ironhide and Bumblebee are cool, so I'm happy to see them doing stuff together. Yeah, they're all flying again. And there's 2 Starscreams that were just taken out. And there are 3 Rumbles here and 4 Reflectors. There's a second Bumblebee. I'm not going to turn this into, we're just going to point out every animation error, but the point I want to make really is the fact that there are so few Decepticons that they had to make a bunch of generics. They had to make multiple Seekers and Mirage Cliffjumper helping each other out, taking out Skywarp and Thundercracker. So you have Cliffjumper saying, "You're not bad, Mirage." Literally, I think it's about 10 episodes from now, he's going to start saying, "I am 100% sure Mirage is a traitor," and he's going to take a shot at him. How quickly things change in the weird and paranoid world of Cliffjumper. And we are going to have Starscream use his famous slingshot, you know, like the Bart Simpson of Cybertron, him with his slingshot, and the Cluster Bomb. Weirdly enough, the Cluster Bomb's only name-dropped a couple of times. I don't think we hear about it again until Heavy Metal War. Yeah, we still just have rainbow Energon cubes. Get ready. We have the introduction of the Energon X and Megatron's Energon Mace. These things will never show up again in the G1 cartoon, but these are the iconic weapons of these characters now. Funny how that works out. Also, they're literally just trash-talking each other now. Something that's really weird. Optimus calling Megatron yesterday's model. Nowadays, Optimus is always so profound. He would be making great poetic gestures as to the evil of Megatron. I love the idea that in G1, Optimus would just say, "Nah, you're going to the junk heap. You're an old piece of trash. Look at you, old man. Look at those wrinkles under your eyes." Also, I don't know if you just saw that. Optimus was like literally just jabbing Megatron with the axe. Rumble and Hound still going on underwater, and Rumble is winning. There he goes. He just launched like Mechagodzilla. Okay, Spike versus Rumble round 2. It's going worse for Spike, if anything. And yet again, Megatron just beat Optimus. Like, I know it was done through chicanery, Optimus was distracted, but this is now every confrontation the Decepticons and the Autobots have had. The Decepticons have won. Also, Megatron's using his mace like a helicopter blade. Look at him go! He's leading the parade, guys. Optimus is having a hard time with that water. We're going to our next ad block. So, guys, it is going to be 1322. 1322, Laserbeak should be flying by, and we are resynced. There's Optimus still going down those rapids of his. Thank God, Jazz is here with the hook again. If it wasn't for Jazz, this war would have ended long ago. Thank God that Jazz knows what he's doing. That's the reason why in Fall of Cybertron, he is the leader of the Special Operations Unit. Is because he is, like, the most competent right-hand man you could possibly want. Plus, everybody likes him. Nobody dislikes Jazz. Not like that jerk Prowl. And Hound giving CPR to Spike after Spike saves Hound. It feels like should be like a thing that gets referenced back to, right? Like, look at this beautiful moment of friendship between boy and bot. It's so weird that this is just gone. So Mirage just wants to abandon the war. He wants to go back to Cybertron. Great look for Optimus here. I love how he's drawn in this scene. Huffer is great for delivering that line, though we are not fighters like we are Prime. Like, I know a lot of what the Autobots say is to also look behind Thundercracker. That's just a generic. There's another generic. Look at all these off-color Thundercrackers. I think that's just normal Soundwave. All these purple Seekers. Also a very bright blue Rumble. As I said, you had to have all these generic Decepticons because otherwise they just don't have enough guys. They just don't. But as I was saying, I love G1 Optimus because he is just the dad of the robots. He sounds like a real human being. He has weird habits. Later on in the show, he has a soap opera he loves to watch. And at the same time, he does have this very just beautiful nature to him. Starscream wasting their energy to test out the guns. And I love the fact that they weren't sure the Energon cubes would work. So Starscream making the case that he's the better leader because he's testing them, but they just wasted a bunch of energy doing that. Oy. So they're going. Wow! Look at Starscream's neck in that shot. So Megatron. Here's what I'll say. Right, G1 Megatron plays it like he's like a store manager. It's all about like time efficiency with him. And then you got Trailcutter spying them all out in the distance while Sparkplug and Spike are drinking tea. Sometimes you need tea in the woods. I also think it's funny that, like, back in the 80s, it was you didn't just have the kid character, you also needed their parental figure there, so that you could kind of have a connection, to the parents who were watching this. I can't think of another time in Transformers where the parent was also friend of the robots, except for June in Transformers Prime, and the Maltos in Earthspark. Also, I don't know if you saw, we had like 14 Rumbles. And yeah, all three of those generic Seekers. Weirdly enough, we've never gotten toys of a lot of these generic Seekers. The purple one has a few different toys. He just got one in the Buzzworthy Bumblebee. Very weird looking Spike there. That's cute. I like that gag. Also, the Seekers were very well aware they were being spied on because Soundwave is a communications officer. He knows when they're being listened to. So there is like a weird thing here with the fact that Trailcutter can't radio himself. And if you remember in the first episode, Wheeljack also just had a weird walkie-talkie on his console. I believe, Sideswipe and Sunstreaker showing up. This is kind of their first big spotlight within the show, because so far they've not had much. I know I have a lot of people in the audience who really love Sunstreaker specifically. First line, complaining about his paint job. Beautiful, wonderful. That's what you want from Sunstreaker. Oi. Sideswipe, voiced by Michael Bell, who I believe I mentioned in the last episode, was also voiced the voice of Prowl and the voice of Scrapper alongside that. So, this is a bit weird to me. Basically, they're using rubies for energy. And I'm legitimately curious if rubies have something in them that can create an electric spark. Because I know there's things like sodium, like potatoes apparently do have a slight charge to them. And I think there are ways that you could extract a small amount of electricity out of things like salt. Also, look at this shot of Megatron showering himself in rubies. It was weird. It was a really weirdly drawn Megatron. And all the Autobots gathered here. Man, Sideswipe is such a good design, specifically. I've always loved Sideswipe's look for just a big robot. Did you hear Wheeljack? with the country accent? He had his normal voice in part one, and yet here, that's still Chris Latta voicing him, but that was like a distinctly southern accent. Is that the inspiration for all the southern Woljacks we've had recently? Is because, yeah, that's still a southern accent on Wojak. That is bizarre. Also, first spotlight for Bumblebee, and he's going in because he's the smallest Autobot. It would have been kind of cool, and I know, it's rich for me to say this 40 years after the fact, but if you wanted to maybe focus on Sparkplug a little bit more to make Bumblebee Sparkplug's partner, and it could be a thing like, just like how Optimus could be a father figure for Spike, maybe Sparkplug could be a father figure for Bumblebee, because Bumblebee was always written to be a younger character. Also, Skywarp and Thundercracker are about to absolutely beat the living hell out of Bumblebee, and it's going to be funny and also sad. Also, I love that. Did you see them cowering in the back? And the Decepticons are using pickaxes. Like, not Energon pickaxes, no, just actual human pickaxes made big. You know what? Sometimes you can't improve upon a design like that. And now Skywarp and Thundercracker have found them. Sparkplug's gonna do his best! Did you see that? He actually took a dive at Thundercracker. I forgot that Sparkplug actually tried to take a dive. That's a brave man, that Sparkplug. So, Ironhide was going to go track it out, but Optimus, because he is the leader, the bravest and the strongest, he's going to go and make sure that his boys are okay. He's never going to endanger anyone else. Allow me a moment to be a very dumb person. Optimus should be a model for how leaders should act. They should take the risk. And yeah, I don't know if you just saw how Thundercracker absolutely just backhanded Bumblebee. And we have Optimus rolling in. And first appearance of Roller. There he goes. Roller making his R2-D2 noises. And we have to question, is Roller his own guy? Because Optimus just begged Roller to be careful. Which to me implies Roller is his own dude. And, Optimus screaming Roller's name. And Jazz freaking out as Optimus slowly tumbles down the hill. We're going to commercial break, guys. Let's get this time. Let's see here. It's 21:52, and we're getting to the next episode. So, what are we dealing with? Right now, we have Optimus Prime very slowly rolling down a hill. Rumble and Bumblebee and Sparkplug might be dead. All the Decepticons might be dead. Everyone could be dead. And Optimus falling to the world below. And I got to say, this episode was so much more fun to talk about. I think that there was less to talk about just because I didn't want to repeat myself too much from last time, so I went less into voice actors. But just in terms of actually sitting down and watching the show, I had so much more fun with this episode. Last episode was also really fun, don't get me wrong. But this was just absolute cheesy 80s goodness. We got to see a lot more of the Autobots. A lot more of them got to speak. We saw more interactions between them. We got good character building from Hound. Optimus, I feel like, got so much a better spotlight here between his fight with Megatron as well as his dad moments. If there's one thing that G1 Transformers, the show, did better than any show to come after, in my opinion, it is the idea that Optimus Prime is the world's best dad and the world's best friend. He is still my favorite version of Optimus, and I'm finally seeing what I've been missing here in episode 2. So, with that said, I'm really excited for More Than Meets the Eye Part 3. I'm not going to record it tonight, just because after work and all this other stuff, I can feel my voice getting a little bit weak. But I just had a tremendous time with this particular episode, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I can't wait to shoot the review, because I do think that overall this was an easier watch, it was a more intriguing watch, there were more fight scenes, there was more character moments, there was less need to slow down and just explain what we're looking at. We're finally getting to a point where the writers don't have to explain what the Transformers are, they can show us who they are. And we're also getting a lot more personality out of Megatron. So, I would say Starscream took a back seat in this episode. He had maybe one good moment with the gun, but there were a lot of characters who got such wonderful moments to shine here. From Brawn saving Huffer to Jazz constantly saving everyone around him, Sideswipe and Sunstreaker getting a little bit of play, and again, Dad of the Robots, Optimus Prime, absolutely proving why he deserved that Father of the Year award. I loved this episode, and it makes me more excited to do these podcasts, because I won't lie. After watching the first one, I was like, I had a good time. Did I have a great time? This time around, I had a great time, and I'm excited to see where part 3 goes from here. But alright guys, on that note, we'll see what we get up to next time.